good, everybody? What's going on? It's Stephen Qualls II, aka Mr. Qualified. It's your boy, and we are back for another episode of the Wright Quallity Podcast. As you all can see, we have an extra member on the pod today, a very, very, very special guest. I always allow our guest and our co-host to introduce themselves. So we will start with you and give you the honor of introducing yourself first to our listeners and to our audience who more than likely are not familiar, but they're going to get real familiar this episode. But yes, please let the people know and remind some of the people that may know who you are. Good sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Josh Price, host of the Price Check Podcast on the one and only In the Zone Network. As Ashley may know, we go city to city, state to state, worldwide. Sticking, of course, in the world of sports for the most part, but we dip off into some, culture, Black culture specifically. But yeah, man, I'm happy to join the show today. I'm honestly a fan, man. Miguel's hot takes, Steven running point, and Ashley just being, the one that we all know and love, man. So happy to join y'all, man. Happy to talk some basketball. I've been NFL heavy here for the last few weeks on my show, so happy to get into some hoops.
Yeah, it makes sense. NFL season is definitely underway. We try to touch on it here and there. We touched on it. Lost pod. We won't speak on it too much.
Hit the under on the too crazy.
Miguel got saved, honestly. But nonetheless, yes, co-host, please introduce yourselves. Remind the people who you are.
Ashley Wright the first. I retired the curls, but best curls on the pod.
By default. I shouldn't have done that. I have a game tonight. I might seduce a defender. Miguel Brown. Hot take master. That's it. That's all I got. I shouldn't have put that on. Game is in like 45 minutes.
Seduce a defender is crazy. I just want you to know that. That's insane.
Hey, my girl smells good. I'm just saying. She got me, so I might get them. Might draw a couple more fouls tonight on accident. They might try and draw contact by force.
Ari, he's stealing your perfume.
Literally.
I was looking for a hot intro. Nothing hotter than what my girl wears. One hot take. Seduce the defender.
Yeah.
No more. No mops.
We are on pace for the over.
On pace for the over for sure.
It was 3 today, right? It's 3 today. We adjusted that. Prize Picks nerfed it. So
it don't matter whether it's 3 or 4. You still gonna go over. That's the funny part about it.
Show numbers out here.
We're blowing past that in the first half, though.
Indeed. Well, the first topic on our docket is sports betting. So on the Wright Quallity Podcast, outside of Miguel usually laboring about how his betting didn't work out, we do not often touch on the sports betting topic. But Josh, may I dare say, may be an expert in this here field. Is this in your scope of expertise?
Expert is a little bit further than what I go, but I say I'm a regular sports bettor. Take some losses, of course, but when it comes to the NBA, we had some luck last year. The one big futures bet we did ultimately hit. We took some win totals from last year. It was Lakers over their win total with the unders on the Suns, Grizzlies, and Blazers.
Okay.
So, Blazers, we got surgical with that one. We kind of see, writing on the wall there. And then the Suns and Grizzlies, I had a little bit of a hunch. Unfortunately, Ja Morant got hurt for the Grizzlies. So, we never wish injury on anybody. But, of course, it worked in favor of our pocket. So we're not going to complain too much.
For sure. Well, I want to know what sports betting 101 is. Because if I want to get into betting, especially on the NBA, because that's the only league I trust to bet on for me personally. But what's sports betting 101 as it relates to knowing not only when to go over under, but also just understanding some of the science and the logic behind how that even works for people who are trying to get into it?
Yeah, so for those who don't bet often, who maybe never have bet at all, really quick, small plug though, before I kind of go 101. For those of y'all who may be in the state of Missouri, make sure you vote yes on Amendment 2 to legalize sports betting in the state of Missouri. So I'm not usually one for politics or the government, but when it works in our favor, again, we here for it. So, but the biggest thing that you have to keep in mind is that one, don't get tripped up by underdogs. And typically with underdogs, anything with a plus in front of that number is usually what is the least likely outcome of the outcomes that you're betting. Now, where that comes to be a little bit more of a science in terms of game-to-game betting, you're going to have a team that's favored. You're going to have a team that's an underdog. In the NBA, if you're betting night to night, it's a little bit tricky to try to see which underdogs to bet and which ones not. You're usually looking at things like the injury report. You're looking at, who might be on the second night of a back-to-back versus a team that maybe didn't play the night before, who may have a, let's say, what's the word I'm looking for? Might be a little bit of a trap game. You might have the Knicks playing a game against the Nets the night before they're supposed to take on the Celtics. Might be looking a little bit ahead that Celtics game, take a loss in the Nets game. So you kind of got to look at some different trends and things like that. Now, when you're talking about futures betting, you're looking for value. And what I mean by that is, for instance, I'll throw this out here now. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but one of the bets that I like for this upcoming season is the Grizzlies to be the number one seed in the Western Conference. Get that at plus 1,200 odds on FanDuel right now. Now, the reason I like that bet is not because I love the Grizzlies, but if we think about the last time we saw the Grizzlies with a healthy Ja Morant and a healthy team around him, they were the second seed in the West, and I feel like the West is worse now than what it was 2 or 3 years ago when they played. And again, plus 1,300 odds now on FanDuel. $10 bet wins you $130. It's worth the risk at that point. Now, you don't want to go too crazy and do things like betting the Rockets to win the number one seed because it is a very low, likelihood that that's going to be what comes your way. But you're looking for value for the futures bets. And then same thing with like your awards betting and things like that. I don't do too much in awards because you can still get good odds on those throughout the season. But like just looking ahead, you think about things like, we haven't had an NBA MVP that's been 30 years or older since Steve Nash won. That's like 15, 16 years ago at this point. Honestly, probably longer than that. He won in 05, 06. Haven't had a 30-year-old MVP since then. You also haven't had an American-born MVP in 6 years. James Harden is the last American-born MVP. So you think about things like that, trends like that, you can kind of start diving into different bets and feel a little bit more confident about what you place.
I didn't even know you could bet on the nationality of the MVP.
So you can't, at least on the sites that I use, you can't bet on the nationality, but you think about what players are now left available and kind of like a process of elimination type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably not getting any more MVP awards for guys like Steph, KD, and LeBron. To be honest, at this point, you're probably not getting any more MVPs for guys like Jokic and Embiid. Right now, the kind of one guy near the top that I like, I know Luka's the favorite, but Luka's the favorite coming into every year. You'll probably get Luka at better odds once they go on like a 5-game losing streak at the beginning of the season. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the one that stands out to me right now. Plus 500 on FanDuel. He's got like the third highest odds. I like Shai one because and thinking about trends and things like that. Awards, win totals, you want one thing, and you want a team that is going to take the regular season seriously. We know for a fact OKC is going to try to go out and win games. And if Shai is healthy, he's probably going to be putting up 30 points a night. Usually that's going to lead you to some MVP consideration. He finished second last year. Everybody's kind of talking about OKC as that team that's going to be that next kind of, elite team in the Western Conference. I think it starts with Shai getting the MVP this year.
Yeah, I think he should have won it last year, me personally.
I agree.
I think last year was his year, given their win totals, given his production. And I think I'm personally a fan of Shai because I think Shai is one of those players who nobody expected to be a superstar. But through getting his shot and through his work ethic, he's shown that he is in the elite of the elite. So I think that makes at least me root for him more. I wouldn't say that he got robbed, but I do feel like the award easily could have went his way. And I think because of that, I don't see his production slowing down or him taking any type of a backward step. So I expect him to be in that conversation very much so again this year. So that will be interesting to see. But yeah, Gail, did you have something?
Not to look in the past about my futures, but I think you said a big thing about looking for value. And I think on a game-to-game betting happenstance where I typically do more of my betting, it's more so looking at matchups, betting on teams that Like, don't go in being like, I've never seen a Rockets game. Let me go bet on the Rockets because I know how they play because you don't. If I remember a couple like money locks for me seeing Grayson Allen on the Bucks. I was like, first quarter over. It was like 4.5 points to like 3 points a game when he was here. Every time we started a game, we are hunting for a Grayson Allen three. So it's like this year, it'll probably be Gary Trent. So if I see a Gary Trent plus first quarter or even first half, like first quarter, I'll look at like 3.5 to 4 points. If he's looking at like 6 in the first half, I'm gonna punch that thing every time because we start off with that little Tony Snell dribble handoff to him. Dame's gonna have eyes, Giannis gonna have eyes, and we have 3-point shooters now that we're gonna look to pop it to. And if it's not gonna be Brook, it's gonna be that starting 2 guard that's next to Dame. So bet on someone you know, bet on teams that you watch, and then I think betting early during the season too, before stats look to solidify and they can start to find those averages a little bit more earlier towards the year and also later towards the year when they start to mess with lineups a little bit. They start to play younger guys. They start to, teams are a little bit out of the hunt. They'll start to sit guys or even teams that are in the hunt that need wins. You look at those teams and be like, oh, yeah, they need this win here. So I'm going to punch over on a couple of guys because they're going to play a little bit harder than the team that has the 1-2 seed already solidified in their conference.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. My bad, Josh. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that's actually a great point by Miguel, especially for the night-to-night bettors. You really want to, or I guess I should say you're going to get the best odds possible the earlier you are in the season. So, for instance, we talked about a guy like Shea. If you're betting him to get 30 points in a single game, those odds on the season opener or on like game number 5 are going to be much better than when you get into game 55 and he's averaging 32 for the season. That's going to be a lot harder to kind of boost that payout for you. And then again, to Miguel's point too, like I am not somebody who bets on tanking teams. If I do, it's going to be like a win total under. So my bet with the Blazers last year, very rarely was I putting any of those guys in any of my parlays. Why? Because if I expect them to lose, more times than not, I'm also expecting them to come up short on the stats that they're projected to get. So you just got to kind of keep stuff like that in mind. And then also don't go overboard. If you think, Giannis can go out and score 35 points and get 15 rebounds, probably bet him to get 30 and 12. Just play it safe. Don't go too far overboard at all.
And then also like matchups too. It's like I know Giannis and Spo have a heated rivalry because Spo game plans against him incredibly. So I'm going to take the under when we face the Heat for Giannis 9 times out of 10. He'll get 29, but the over on prize picks is probably 30.5 still. Anthony Edwards versus Phoenix Suns. I'm going to punch that under every time that man sees the Phoenix Suns because he can't put up 20 against them or he can't put up 15 in the last game of the season. Like I said, we won't focus on the past. And find those favorites. Rest in peace, Killian Hayes. The easy under is gone from the league. Oh, God bless his soul. He gave me so many greens, but he is gone. So now find a new favorite under. Mine for this year, if I had to lock one in, Jeremy Sohan. We have a real point guard now. So now if you see his assist totals are at a certain level, punch that under because that man couldn't throw Victor Wembanyama a lob. So let's find those new unders, those easy greens that you could find game to game. So
speaking of the Spurs, I'm sorry, Ashley. Speaking of the Spurs, just know that Chris Paul assists Victor Wembanyama points probably going to feed a lot of families this season. So
a lot of families.
In mind.
Feeding the country.
We can probably start a food bank with the amount of money we're going to raise off of those bets.
You're making a good point too, like synergy within bets. Don't like bet, Giannis to score. I guess bets that go against themselves. So it's like, let's say I'm going to take Victor to have like 6 blocks. I'm not going to take Şengün to shoot better than like 50%. Or, I'm not if they're facing each other because that means he's going to get a lot of shots blocked that game, most likely. So don't bet against the grain because at the end of the day, you're just fighting yourself.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I see a lot of same game parlay opportunities. So Steve and I touched on duos last pod. What duos this season do you think bettors should focus on when it comes to same game parlay? And if you have any particular duos in mind, what categories should bettors focus on as far as those duos are concerned?
Jaylen Brown free throws, Cat 3-point attempts.
Yeah.
If you can find, because they have a free throw makes on prize picks, and then Cat's going to be chucking this year because JB is back to the basket guard. if you're really watching how they play.
Yeah. No, I like Brunson and Cat. I mentioned Chris Paul and Wemby. Another sneaky one this year, I think personally, is going to be Shea's points with either Hardenstein or Chet Holmgren's rebounds. I'm again, from what I could tell from OKC, they're probably going to have to play a lot of Holmgren and Hardenstein together. And so I think, again, depending on the matchup now, I think you're probably going to see a lot of outcomes where not only is Shea going off, but you're going to have a slight size advantage for them up front that they may not have had last year.
Slight detour. If OKC does play Hardenstein and Holmgren together, if you have Shea and J-Dub, who's the fifth member of that starting lineup? Is it Caruso or
Caruso? I think it's
or Lou Dort.
You know what? I think for that team
and
and chemistry, it probably is Lou Dort.
Yeah, and then Caruso is a great six man off the bench.
Yeah,
So
and
we're
Caruso
looking-
is kind of the perfect six man for them because he's not a six man that has to just go in and start chucking up shots.
Yeah.
He can kind of be a little bit versatile depending on the matchup. Now I'm curious to see what the rest of that bench looks like, but Caruso definitely fits them perfectly as either a six man or a spot starter, depending on what they need.
Yeah, they still have is it Isaiah Joe that's there?
Mhm.
Yeah.
We got Isaiah Joe. I think they have enough to be 8 or 9 deep. I'd have to relook at that roster.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about, we mentioned the starting five. You got Caruso, you got Isaiah Joe, you still have the big man, Jalen Williams. Who else? They got Case and Wallace. My
Yeah.
guy, love Case and Wallace. So they got guards. I'm interested to see what the wings look like. I know they took a shot on Gordon Hayward last year, didn't really work out, but they still got guys like Kenrich Williams, things like that. So we'll kind of see how they piece that together. But they're gonna be solid. I like what OKC's building. I'm curious about what it really means in the playoffs for them still, but I think regular season they're gonna be a juggernaut.
Yeah. I think Caruso and Hardenstein, to be completely honest, shores them up for the postseason in regard to, I trust that they will be formidable. Does that mean that they are easily going to the conference finals or the finals? No. But if the one thing that they were lacking was experience, I think they got a lot of that, especially playoff experience, in somebody like Caruso and in somebody like Hardenstein, who has seen a fair amount of battles that he's bringing to that team he's not a vet per se, but compared to what that team has experienced, he will be considered a vet in that regard. So I think we'll see how that shapes up during the regular season, but that will tell a lot as they go into the postseason. But I expect them to be a top 4 team in the West regardless. So,
yeah, I mean, it's gonna be real. Like, unless Shea gets hurt, it's gonna be almost impossible for them not to be a top 4 seed.
yeah.
I think Denver got worse. I think, Dallas, they got Clay, but this ain't the same Clay from like 2015, 2016. So, I'd say they're probably just as good as they were. If Luka is in shape early in the season, maybe they're a little bit better in the regular season. But and then the Timberwolves, to me, they got worse with the cat trade. I mean, if we're simply looking at it from starter for starter, swapping in Randall for Towns, you got worse shooting the ball. You may be hard to believe, but you got worse defensively.
Agreed.
And because of that lack of shooting, and you got a ball stopper in Randall who, for all Cat's flaws, you pass the Cat, he's either going to shoot the ball or he's going to give it back up. Julius Randle, he's going to do a couple jab steps. He's going to get you some pump fakes. He's going to do a spin move. And then next thing you know, it's going to be 2 seconds on the shot clock and he's going to be passing out or taking a terrible shot.
I'm of the belief that Julius Randle has matured. He might very well prove me wrong. He might, but I'm of the belief that if this man is serious about winning any type of meaningful games, that he has matured and learned that it is not his place to be ball stopping and doing this whole thing. How bad did I freeze?
You're good.
It was one time. I'm taking the under on anything Anthony Edwards now.
I was going to say, Randall is as mature as Miguel is on this pod. That's how I feel. That's how I feel.
We're still at the under, folks.
They're putting all of the. I am baiting you, and it's going to be all pod long.
Don't worry.
They're,
Don't worry.
they're putting all of their eggs in Nas Reed's basket, in my opinion. And while Nas did ball out, he averaged 12 points a game. I don't feel like that one season and that point total is enough to say, hey, Cat, we're shipping you off to New York for Randall. I just truly don't see it that way. I feel like it should have been one more year with Cat, and then maybe you reassess. Go ahead, Miguel.
Are they better with Julius Randle as a Manu Ginobili six-man?
No.
I am not opposed to Julius Randle coming off the bench. He's not going to like it, but if that is what they decided, I think he would actually thrive in a six-man role because he's going to get the touches that he wants. If it's about touches for him, that's where I think the maturity comes in. But if that's what you're worried about, if I'm Julius Randle, I say, if you telling me I'm going to get my touches with the second unit, then I'm going to have second unit bigs guarding me. I don't necessarily care about starting because what does that mean exactly? And to the Nas Reed point, I would not be surprised to see his production take an uptick with more minutes if that is the direction that they go. I do think
when Cat was out.
For that, he would just need the opportunity. Because if you put Nas Reed on any other team and gave him touches, I think he could average between 15 to 18 points if you gave him the shots to do it.
That's what they would need to see. But I just don't know if that's what we will see when teams start to game plan for a Nas Reed.
Yeah, that's fair.
Game plan.
I think Randall coming off the bench is interesting because I think that is if that conversation were to happen, I think that's going to be very similar to the Russell Westbrook coming off the bench situation in LA. You got a guy who's, at least now Julius Randle has created a reputation for himself because, again, for all his flaws, this is a dude that's been second team All NBA before. And so to have that conversation and then to receive it and say, you know what, I'm going to take my skills, I'm going to come off the bench and we're going to see how it works, especially this could potentially be a contract year for him. He's got a player option going into next season. So, if it's about getting your money, getting paid, putting up numbers, coming off the bench might not be the worst thing in the world. Just saying.
Speaking of betting tips, bet on someone that's going for a contract year.
Always.
Very
they get paid, you get paid. Simple.
I didn't know that was something that was on the ballot. And me and Gail touched on this a while back in terms of whether sports betting was doing more harm than good for the sports industry in general. But with the way that it is now, it's obviously marketed way more. Sports betting is commercialized, essentially. I mean, we're seeing multiple sports betting ads in every major sports league, game, throughout their season. It's not something that can be controlled. It's obviously not something that is going away. But is there a way that this can be curbed in any capacity? Is there any way to make this safe, for lack of a better word, if you will?
Well, I think, the sports books have tried, right? They have different things within the app where you can set limits for yourself, whether it be on a weekly or monthly basis. They have all the bet responsibly hotlines depending on what your state is. But I think all in all, it's the same way with whether it be alcohol, crack, whatever. If somebody want it bad enough, they're going to go get it.
All this keep reminding me.
Crack is crazy.
Wait, all this keep reminding me of the Stephen A. talking about Lamar.
Stay off Louise. Yeah, who was on crack?
Hey, Max was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Hey, but I mean, for some people, that's how extreme it gets. But my only advice to people out there gambling is know your own financial situation. If you know that you got your last $10 until payday, don't go bet your last $10. If you're getting into it thinking that, okay, I'm just going to get the payout of a lifetime every time I bet, you're going to lose a lot of money. Yeah. So for me, different sports are going to be bet differently, but like using the NFL, for example, we know the regular season in the NFL is, they play 17 games. It's over the course of 18 weeks. The goal for me is I want to start my account at a certain level at week 1. By week 18, I want to be at this number. So you're kind of keeping track throughout the season of what's going to get me there. What bets have I lost? What bets am I now going to stay away from because I've lost those? And what are we seeing consistently hit? And again, to my point earlier about underdogs, a lot of people take underdogs because those are typically the better payouts, but they're underdogs for a reason. Underdogs don't win every game. So you just got to keep those types of trends and things in mind. Just know your own financial situation. It'll pay off for you in the long.
Yeah. Sounds good. That's all sports betting. If you have any questions after that, you obviously weren't paying attention. But
1-800-GAMBLER, sir. Find that link. Call that hotline.
Real quick.
Is it betting on AJ Green? Oh, hell.
Oh, man.
Call the Amberland. Get him. Oh, they're
That's
saying
3.
This is an outburst.
That's 3.
No, these aren't hot takes. These are clippable moments. But there's a difference.
This is you trying to go viral. I feel it. I understand.
I'm trying to save the youth. You know who I'm talking to.
But we kind of already talked about some of the teams in the league and the changes that they made. But are there any other teams that we're expecting to make any major leaps this NBA season?
There was only a couple that I could land on. Honorable mention to me in this category would be the Pelicans. We've been waiting on the Pelicans to break out for like 5 years now. But we saw Zion actually lose some weight this offseason. They got DeJounte Murray. I still don't love the fit with Brandon Ingram. I'm sure they'll try to shop him again as the season continues, but just with what they have on the roster, and again, I think the West got a little bit worse this offseason. If they're going to have a breakout year, this is the year to do it. But the two that kind of stand out for me in the East, I've got the Orlando Magic, and in the West, I've got the Houston Rockets. Different reasons for both, but what it comes down to is you got teams that have young guys that are ready to take a leap, but they've also brought in the right veterans with them. Magic, I absolutely love them getting KCP. You add him to a defense that I think was third in the league last year. You got him and Jalen Suggs to defend on the perimeter. You got Jonathan Isaac to defend any and everybody. And you got Paolo and hopefully Franz Wagner to get you the scoring that you need. If they can play defense the way they did last year and Paolo can continue to take that step up, I like the ceiling of the Magic being like the third seed in the East. It's not out of the realm of possibility to me. It's going to take a leap, but not out of the realm of possibility. And the Rockets, I mean, we don't have to say much about Ime Udoka as a coach, but he's obviously turned them around. I'm thinking Jalen Green is going to be able to take a little bit of a leap. And, Reed Shepherd, of course, shooter coming off the bench. Now, you got some pieces there with the Rockets. And again, what's got worse, they should at least be a play-in team.
For sure. I agree with that. I love the leap the Magic took last year. I think they're very well coached. I think Paolo is bound to take another leap if he is who we think that he is. I love the KCP move as well. So I think they've started to build a team that can compete in the East that has gotten a bit tougher. But I also really agree with them having a ceiling of being the third seed, because even when you look at how top heavy the East is considered to be, the Knicks is going to depend on health. And they may be more primed to consider being ready for the postseason than focusing solely on the regular season, given how their aspirations and their expectations have increased since last year. The same goes for every other team in the East. I just don't expect Boston to have a bad regular season because they're still the deepest team in the league. Milwaukee is going to come down to health. Philly is absolutely, like, health is paramount for whatever they're going to do. So they could easily fall, and they're not guaranteed to be in that top four, depending on how the regular season goes and if they're just trying to make sure they get to the playoffs healthy. But in the same lane of the Magic, I think Indiana is bound to take another leap. And I think for Indiana, it's just about the defensive side of the ball, which between Pascal, between how we saw Neesmith emerge last season, Mathurin coming back, Nembhard as well, I think they have the makings to be great on both, sides of the ball. So if they can put that together throughout the regular season and not just outscore everybody, but actually learn how to get stops as well, I see them also vying for a top four spot because they're also extremely young and extremely hungry as well. And they have a really good team, like, constructed and team dynamic. So I expect them to be in the same realm. I see them in the Magic on the same level of what they did last year, what their expectations could be this year, and how competitive they can be. In the West, I have absolutely no idea. I would not have said that the West has gotten worse, but I can't necessarily disagree with the take. If you look at how some of the top teams are coming back into this season, Denver absolutely got worse. I think losing KCP is going to be major for them. While I do think Russ will excel in whatever role he has there, mainly because Jokic wanted him there. I think Russ is just at a place where as long as he has a coach that wants to utilize him and knows how to utilize him, we'll still see Russell Westbrook be Russell Westbrook. But still don't know. I mean, Jokic is still Jokic, so I'm not saying Denver isn't in the conversation, but I don't think they're as feared or will be as feared as they were last season. I think the same goes for Minnesota. And I think every other team after that, the Clippers are no longer that team that is sneaky good. Phoenix, we have no idea if this experiment is going to work out, although I do like some of the offseason moves that they made. And every other team is still kind of like on this bubble. We have no idea what the Lakers are going to look like. I thought they were going to be extremely good last year with the offseason moves they made. Terrible. Now, how much of that was coaching? I don't know. Do I have faith in JJ? Relatively. But nonetheless, they're still going to have to find out how to win games. And I don't know how that's going to look in the regular season night to night. And no other team in the West really stands out as of right now as a team that I feel like is going to dominate. I am somewhat interested in how the Kings will look, though. I know that defensive side of the ball is still somewhat of a question mark. But with DeRozan there, I think Fox is emerging. I think Sabonis is a really solid mainstay for that team. They have some pieces around there, so I expect them to be competitive. But like you said, in a West that is now somewhat up for grabs, I wonder where they'll fall this season after having a really good season, then falling back to earth the season after. So that's kind of where I'm at with teams who may or may not take a leap.
I think one team in the East that will take a leap, and stick with me, I think the Hornets. Not a lot of eyes are on them right now, but with the return of LaMelo, he just scored 21 points in 20 minutes last night. And I know it's a preseason game, but he does so much for that team. So LaMelo, Miles Bridges, I think Brandon Miller takes a leap. That's a scary team out there.
Not the Miles.
Looking like this.
Not the Miles.
RCBNB.
But no, like the truth of the matter is they're still down there. And prior to that happening with Miles Bridges, you know, they were a team that was on the rise. Like they had a surge. So I do feel like in the East they can make some noise.
Their coach, Ashley, is also like Charles Lee came from Milwaukee, was in Boston. Amazing coach. So I think him as well with the talent on that roster. Brandon Miller had a really good rookie season, kind of went under the radar, but expecting him to take a leap as well. So I agree. I think Charlotte, if healthy, probably would have been a play-in team last year anyway. But I'm not going to say the East is up for grabs because I still think, obviously, Boston is the team to beat. But I do think, however, after those top 4 teams in the East, I think 5 through 8 is really up for grabs when you're talking about Orlando, Indiana, a team like Charlotte. I'm not hopping on the Chicago bandwagon, respectfully.
Oh, no.
I'm not on the Atlanta bandwagon. That's how I feel about the Hawks.
Should have been like, which 5 teams you expect to take a backslide this season? Because I think the only 2 teams that have any room to take a leap and have shown that they possibly can with their players are Charlotte and the Spurs. Everyone else, I think, is a net neutral, or it's championship or bust, or it's like Charlotte and Spurs. Like, other than that, it's like, what are we really doing? What is the end goal? Portland?
So, I like the Spurs. I guess my question for the Spurs is what is the definition of leap for them?
I think it's
into the top 6 as a playoff team. Is it the play-in?
Like,
I think
regardless of what is going on in the West around them, Wemby is coming. Wemby is inevitable. Just give him the Thanos glove and the Infinity Stones. Wemby is inevitable. He's on the way.
He's here.
So, I mean, and we know Chris Paul's track record. Every team he goes to that first season, they are much better than they were the year before. So I think they can make some noise. I don't know that I trust the rest of the guys around Wemby and CP3 to help them in that leap in the way that you would think a Wemby team.
I think I do, because did we trust anybody on that Phoenix team when CP3 got there outside of Book?
You trust anyone on that OKC team when he got there?
Yeah, like
Shea was becoming Shea, but still to the point, not necessarily. But to that point, I think CP's leadership will
galvanize.
Now, if you're saying trust them in regards to like just how productive will they be, and will they be productive enough for the Spurs to really be dangerous, that's still yet to be seen. We don't know. But I mean, I think your best chance to see if that plays out is having Chris Paul there in this.
Yeah. And I think that the role players will do just enough.
I'm thinking about last year, and they literally did not have guys to get an entry pass to win.
Literally.
And the majority of those guys are still in the roster. So that's kind of what I'm factoring in. But if we're solely thinking, okay, Wemby is at a superstar level enough to where, okay, just by having him, you're getting an automatic like 38 to 40 wins, we could very well be in that place right now. So I'm not dismissing it. I don't know that I trust the guys around him quite yet. But Wemby is absolutely like, we talked about betting earlier, defensive player of the year. Don't even waste your money on anybody else. The man stopped a 3-on-1 fast break by himself, and the team didn't even get a shot off. Just don't bet anybody else. Wemby's defensive player of the year.
It could have been his last year.
It should have been, but we'll save that conversation for a different time. I'm going to take my Rudy Gobert bias out of it. So.
No, bring it. We need it. We need more.
I don't know how we keep giving defensive player of the year to a man that literally gets played off the court every postseason.
I'm just wondering where the guards are. Like, I mean, it's not like every person that is the best defensive player is the center on the team. Like, it takes good guards to make a good center work too.
Like, and if we're being 100% honest, Rudy Gobert's not the best defender on his team. Jaden McDaniels is.
Facts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like that. So, that's what it. If we're giving it to anyone on that team, he's taking the main person every single night. Yes, they funnel him into a spot where Rudy is the main clog down low, but
it's not that Rudy. I don't want to call Rudy ineffective. That would be unfair.
Right.
But I do think we have to take into account that he has a very specific niche of defensive like prowess. Where if we're talking about defensive player of the year, I'm not saying he didn't have years where he deserved it, but at this point,
more versatility.
Yeah, like he's not the most versatile defender. It's in the same way that I know Brook's been in the conversation, but Brook protects the rim. That doesn't necessarily, because he protects the rim really well, doesn't mean that he deserves to always be in the conversation for DPOY, because I think that defense is now extremely versatile. You have guards who can guard on ball, but also protect the rim as well. So I think we just have to have a different conversation about the metrics that are being used to measure defensive player of the year. Last thing on the Spurs and Wemby, I think a huge difference we'll see this season. Wemby's going to take control of that team. Ain't going to be too much of them other players having the ball and doing too much and not getting him the ball. He ain't going to even need Chris Paul for real. Hey, get out the way, bro. I'm going to walk him down myself, actually. And we going to get to this if that's what he want to do. Or I'm going to mix him on this wing myself if that's what I want to do. But in terms of Wemby on his way, Wemby's virtually here. It's just a matter of time before he figures it all.
It's the rest of the world ready. It's not about him being ready. It's the rest of the world ready.
Yeah, for real.
Facts. Okay, so we have two lists that we are going to make to wrap up the episode. The first list can kind of be off vibes. You know what I'm saying? It's give or take. The second list is going to have a bit more discussion to it. The first list: who are the top 5 players that need a ring to solidify their place in NBA history?
So this was the easiest of the two lists for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go from 5 to 1 on my list. Number 5, I got Jimmy Butler. We've seen him get to the NBA Finals now twice. Unfortunately for him, his teams have won 3 total games in those 2 series. We know the type of player that Jimmy Butler is, especially when he's healthy. But the whole Heat culture talk, the whole Jimmy Buckets talk, you got to get some hardware behind it. And of course, he's not going to be a guy that's going to ever be in like the MVP conversation, especially if he's not playing enough games every year. But we know come playoff time, he's one of the fiercest playoff competitors we've ever seen in the NBA. But I think a championship will kind of be the cherry on top of that competitive Sunday, if you will, for him.
So I agree. My question
Now
is if he gets the ring, where in NBA history does that put him?
Oh, he's bottom. He's still bottom of the totem pole, I think.
Yeah, I mean he's not going to be like in that, top 25 all-time conversation, but you kind of got to start looking at him similar. It's not quite the same level, but you kind of think of him the same way you think of Dirk post 2011. It's like we knew this was a great player. We knew he, brought something to the game that we didn't see out of everybody, but that championship really solidified his status as I am one of the guys that truly stood out over the course of the history of the league. I think, we talked about, top 75 of all time when they did that a couple years ago. If you're looking at like who's going to be in that top 100 in another 20 plus years, Jimmy could solidify himself in that list with a ring, I think.
Definitely agree with that.
Oh,
my bad. Go ahead. Yeah, go.
I was gonna say number 4 for me was James Harden. I don't think he's ever going to get a ring, but if he ever wanted to be considered as like James Harden, everybody don't like the style. Everybody knows that he loved going to the club just as much as he loved hitting the court. We know this about James Harden. It's no secret. But if we just go back and look at the run he had in Houston, he's legitimately putting up Kobe's like numbers from a scoring standpoint. He was carrying a Houston team on his back. Granted, he ran up against the Warriors, and like a lot of teams that ran up against the Warriors, he took L's. It is what it is. But if he was ever going to get his just due as one of the best shooting guards of all time, he would need a ring to do it. I just don't see it happening, especially not in the Clippers uniform. So, is what it is for James. In a similar vein of James Harden, number 3 for me is Luka Doncic. And the only reason I have Luka on this list is because for where Luka's at in his career, we look like what, like year like 6, 7 for him.
7? Might be 7.
Yeah. I think was that 2018 draft? I think.
Yep, it's 18 draft.
So this will be year 7 for him.
30.
So when you think about where we talked about Luka, we're looking at him as like one of those next great superstars, right? Most of those great superstars, this is about the time where you get that first ring. So for him, he's kind of that next one up of if you don't win one in the next couple of years, we're going to start looking like, okay, the clock is ticking, buddy. Like we need one of these Larry O'Briens that we needed immediately. So Luka's number 3 on my list for that. Number 2 on my list is Damian Lillard. Dame really is elite as a scoring point guard. He really has had a career that a lot of people are going to gloss over the history of time because of the fact he was stuck in Portland for most of those years. One Western Conference final trip he took, Portland got the doors blown off every game. So, it definitely would aid him getting that recognition that just due for his career if he was to get a ring. And he's also in a situation with Milwaukee where we're not going to look at it as like a sympathy ring. He's not at the end of the bench at the end of his career just hanging on. He would still be a top 2 guy on the championship team. So I think he's number 2. And number 1 for me is Joel Embiid. Come on. Joel Embiid, I think, is about to turn 30, or he might have already turned 30. Joel Embiid has not been past the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah. Tyrese Halliburton has.
Yep.
Tyrese Halliburton has.
Evan Mobley.
We talked about Luka. Luka's been to the conference finals. James Harden, has played in a couple conference finals at this point. Jimmy Butler has made the NBA finals at this point. Everybody on the list that I have so far that I'm saying needs a ring has been farther in the playoffs than he has. Mind you, Joel Embiid has played on some very talented teams in Philadelphia, especially post-process. Now, you could say Ben Simmons might have single-handedly tanked his chance at a ring. I believe that's like 2019, 2020 or whatever. 2021 when the Bucks won. But you got your MVP award now. You probably got the most talented team on paper now that you've ever had in Philly. The ring needs to happen, and it probably needs to happen this year. And you got to be healthy when you get it, because we all know every year the one thing that you can bank on with Joel Embiid, that he is either going to be recovering from an injury or fully injured when it matters the most. And every year we can't keep singing that song.
Yeah. Yeah, no, amazing list. And honestly, in terms of players without a ring, I would say those are the 5 most relevant ones as it currently stands. I think there's a new class of players like Tatum saved himself, obviously, which is
absolutely.
But like, there's a class of players that's coming up. Like, would Book be like 6th on that list?
No. So honestly, for me, I think, I guess, see, Book to me is a little different. At least with Book, we saw them go to the finals, and he had a really good series.
Yeah.
Can't say that they lost that finals because of him.
Right.
I would put Paul George on that list before I put Devin Booker.
Fair.
Yep. I would too.
You know, the man called himself playoff P. In the next playoffs, he was shooting shots off the side of the backboard. So you kind of, at this point, and we saw him overcome it a little bit, the conference finals appearance that the Clippers got without Kawhi, where he kind of carried that team. We saw him actually put it together for a full playoffs that year. Even still, the time is now, my friend. you got to put up or shut up. And I guess I'll take. I wouldn't have CB3 on that list anymore. He's gonna be the point guard forever.
Yeah.
With or without a ring. I'm trying to think of guys without one. It's probably guys with rings that I would think need more to solidify themselves.
That was gonna be my next thing.
Giannis.
It's a list of guys with one that.
So Ashley just said it. Look, that Giannis, the 50-point performance in Game 6, incredible.
You need another one.
Every playoff since then, though, the Bucks have either disappointed or flamed out without him. And at some point, we got to know that this is real. We need another one.
The only pass Giannis gets is 2022 because he balled out against the Celtics without Middleton. That season went 7,
and then this last one, he literally wasn't here too.
Yeah, they still should have won that series, in my opinion. Had opportunity, obviously, but it's hard when your second, goes out, and your closer at that time, goes out as well. Nonetheless, I am Miguel is the biased Milwaukee fan. Okay,
hold on. Do you want to hear my 5? Do you want to hear my 5, sir?
Giannis need that second ring.
I said that in last year's, and y'all were like, "Does Giannis need another one to solidify?"
No, you said Giannis had more to prove. I don't think so much that
the ring. Yeah,
I don't think the ring is more so for Giannis being in the elite conversation. Giannis has proven who Giannis is, and without a ring, I don't think the conversation around Giannis being a great
is solidified.
Change. I think he's solidified as a great. But if Giannis wants to be the elite, if he wants to be anywhere near a top 15, 10 conversation, he's going to need a second ring, especially because he's probably not getting another MVP the way the league is kind of going. More than likely not going to get another DPOY. His accolade season more than likely is over.
So first team at this point, first team, second team, that's it.
Yeah, so it's coming down to a ring.
So my 5, I'm speed running. Embiid for reasons. Tatum because corny. Giannis because he's only got one and he's at the stature that he's at. Luka because Wonder Boy, and then KD because can he win without Steph?
So KD was one that just missed the cut for me. And to be honest, I think the Olympics this year is the only thing that
I was literally going to say that. That was the only thing that I was like, because hating.
The hard part for KD is he got our respect for everything that he did in Oklahoma City. If you really go back and look at his numbers at OKC, they're some of the best statistical seasons you can have for anybody.
But then what takes away is that he was up 3-1 against Golden State and then goes to Golden State. That's the only reason why I take away.
And so, but Gail, you just led me perfectly into this. So we always give the Warriors crap for losing their 3-1 lead against the Cleveland Cavaliers in the finals. Mm-hmm. We never talk about Oklahoma City blowing the 3-1 lead against the Warriors and having the lead in Game 6 at home. Of course, Game 6 play. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, when you have Kevin Durant playing at the level that he played at, there's no excuse for him to end that series the way that he did. Yeah. And since the Warriors, he hasn't come anywhere close to a ring outside of the foot being on the line in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And even then, a lot of people don't remember this, but that was a second round series. That wasn't even the conference finals.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about KD, again, one of the best scorers we've ever seen. Again, Olympic performances for days. That one ring without Steph, though, would do wonders for him.
Wonders.
So how much of, I guess, a boost would this one ring give KD, given that he's still teamed up with Book? He's still got Beal. And I know that Beal isn't at the level he was at in Washington, but Book is still a bucket.
Ooh. But KD is their one now.
Me. Yeah, because no, but so Book and Beal are not Steph and Clay.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
And so
he's driving the bus.
I will say this. If KD gets a ring without Steph, you might have to seriously consider the conversation of him being top 10.
Yeah.
That's how big, to me, that ring without Steph is.
Because KD because of how he plays, too. That's why we give him so much praise.
If he was to get that ring, that'd be 3 rings. He already got 2 finals MVP. He'd probably have a third with the third ring. He got his MVP already. He's 8th all time in scoring, will be higher by the time his career is over. He's probably the purest scorer we've ever seen in the NBA. I ain't saying he's undoubtedly top 10, but I'm saying it would change the conversation around him a lot. And if his narrative is different, I think we see him put into a different class as far as the elite of the elite in the NBA with that third.
So think about it this way, right? Kevin Durant gets ring number 3. He has the same amount of rings as Larry Bird.
Woo!
If you put their resumes side by side, which one are you taking? Because I probably would take Kevin Durant.
Because before it was Larry when we were talking about best threes of all time. But if KD gets a ring and we're talking player for player, KD's walking.
Now let me say this. Player for player, it is easily KD. Yeah. But I'm not going to sit here and act like Larry's resume ain't.
Oh, no.
So it wouldn't be an easy decision. I would still probably lean toward KD, all things considered. But Larry's resume, especially for how short his career ended up being, all things considered, is insane.
Yeah. I think when you like, and I did like a little TikTok short. We did NBA Throwback Thursdays towards the end of last season. Transparently, I got a little pissed off that people were calling Caitlin Clark the greatest white basketball player ever, and clearly they are like 18 years old because they've never watched.
Steve Nash exists.
Like go turn on YouTube, please, because Larry Bird was doing things that guys even in today's game don't do. People forget how great of a passer Larry was. Larry was averaging consistently 9 and 10 rebounds a night, and that was on a team and in an era where you were getting knocked on your ass.
I was just about to say, on a bad back, he was doing all that.
And so, and he was out there talking cash money too. Like, he was telling you what he was going to do and then going to execute it and then just turn around and smirking. Like, he wasn't even talking back after the fact. So, like, you look at a guy like Larry and what he was able to accomplish, but then you think about KD and what a third ring with the comparable numbers and things like that. I mean, come on.
And on that note, I got a game to play, but my top 5 influential players are MJ, AI, D-Wade, Bron, and Steph. Just so that the video could still pick something up. Here I am.
Is that Cordell?
For Halloween, you shall see. We will leave that in the tippy top corner. I'm gonna leave the light on. Ari's gonna be sterile when she gets home. But God bless you in your first introduction to the pod. You've been spitting. You called Chris Paul the point god. We need you back. And I got out with the under one controversial, whatever we call it. God bless.
It was not one.
Yep, it was one. Check the odds.
You did get in the under. You did get the under. So
And Miguel, it comes full circle. You just ruined somebody else's parlay. So the good job.
Absolutely. Athletes.
Okay.
fair enough.
Points tonight for me.
He was under, but it was not one outburst.
Oh my goodness, it was.
Well, people, now y'all see how Miguel signs off in almost any way possible, and you never know what you're gonna get. But he did give his top 5 influential players list. I personally think he left one very key person off if we're talking about.
Yeah, I've only got one disagreement with him.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know if I heard one name that I was looking for.
Oh,
Did I hear Kobe?
I definitely didn't hear.
wait.
Yeah.
I meant to say Kobe. Hold on, wait. So wait, who did I throw in there?
you had D-Wade. D-Wade will be replaced by Kobe in my list.
Yeah.
The other people are
Kobe for sure. Wait, who else? I said MJ, AI,
Yeah.
Bron,
Yeah,
Steph.
Steph.
Yeah. I mean, Steph's got to be in there. D Wade for me. God bless his soul. I was always a D Wade fan over Kobe, but Kobe's on that list. Let's be real. But I'm personally, I don't shoot off the backboard as much as I do if it weren't for D Wade. Love y'all.
I love that the conversation was happening as though we were like almost talking to his shoes. As opposed
Yeah.
to, it was perfect camera placement.
I put up 40 in these.
It didn't happen if you didn't record it.
Officially, I'll do it. Don't worry.
He gonna have somebody recorded tonight for sure.
And we're gonna get highlights next pod.
Absolutely. But yeah, honestly, I think his list, I don't know if it would be considered the standard, but it would probably be mine. And I think a lot of people, I mean, if we're talking influence, I don't know if that is more so an era thing. And if people think that other players from prior to, like, I would imagine some people might say Magic is influential. If you're talking about what a point guard could look like. Some people may try to think of, it also depends on how technical you want to get. But I just think if we're talking influence, you have to do all things considered. And I think the 5 players that are named captured everything, and they all had a specific influence in like one area of the game, right? So like Steph is obviously shooting. I would say you could argue for Kobe, it's probably more mentality than anything. Like
mentality and work ethic. Like if you think about like the Redeem Team doc that's on Netflix.
Yeah.
You didn't really have guys going to the gym at 4 or 5 in the morning before they saw Kobe doing that.
Right.
And I mean, and just think about everyday life. You shoot a paper ball in a trash can, you yelling Kobe when you do it. Like it's kind of a no-brainer at that point. Honestly though, Magic Johnson was the like last person that I cut off. Like he would be number 6 on this list for me. Just because I think when you think about big, like bigger guards or like taller ball handlers, none of that would be possible without Magic Johnson kind of being the foundation for that. But I think when you think about, like, again, you mentioned Steph, we literally changed the way we play and consume basketball because of how Steph plays.
Yeah.
If you look at fast breaks now, guys can be on 3-on-1 and the 2 guys on the wing are going to the corners to shoot as opposed to cutting to the basket now. And that's a direct reflection of Steph. AI made it cool to have swag on a basketball court. Nobody was rocking sleeves. Nobody had tattoos. Nobody was rocking braids before Allen Iverson. I mean, what didn't Michael Jordan influence? Like he made it a thing to not only be a brand as a basketball player, but then to continue that brand off the court after your career. Mm-hmm. And then, LeBron, it's kind of the same thing. It's the influence of how he takes care of his body. Guys are spending millions of dollars on their body in the offseason because LeBron did it first. And, whether he would like to take credit for it or not, a lot of the whole player movement and like that type of thing is a direct reflection of LeBron. Like I try not to say player empowerment era because I don't think players have been empowered like LeBron. Like if you really think about it, there are very few guys ever, let alone in this current era, that you are just completely flipping your franchise over for. LeBron is probably the only guy in the league right now, maybe KD, if you want to, look at what happened in Brooklyn. But LeBron's the only guy that you are just literally saying, okay, here are the keys to my organization. You take it.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about player empowerment, you would have a little bit more of that for everybody as opposed to just him. So player movement, though, I think he made it okay for stars to want to go to other destinations. Whether you like it as a fan or not is a totally different discussion. But I think LeBron was the first guy that you could look at and say, he is not a player that I'm rooting for because of the jersey he wears. It's because of him as the player, and I'm going and traveling with him wherever he goes.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I don't have any disagreements. I mean, Magic, the only thing I would add is like I think Magic is an evolution of Oscar Robertson, and then LeBron is virtually an evolution of Magic, in my opinion.
I actually agree with that because you are essentially with LeBron adding a scoring element to the Magic Johnson kind of archetype. So
for sure.
I definitely think that's a solid list. The D Wade thing, Miguel mentioned that. Of course, I wouldn't have had him in the 5, but I do think D Wade is an interesting conversation because
China.
There is an athletic guard type of influence that he had that you didn't necessarily see at that time because for the most part, for a guy that was D Wade's size, you primarily played point guard.
Right.
You weren't really a scoring guard at the time, and he kind of made that a little bit of, I guess influence change or whatever when he played. But it's also hard to just say D Wade influenced because you got to have the athleticism that D Wade had. There's not too many guys that can say they got that.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say D Wade was one of the first, I think, athletic defensive guards, and that's no disrespect to like the Gary Paytons and those type of guards, but in terms of a big guard who not only was guarding on ball but was guarding at the rim, I think he was one of the first guards that we saw with that type of defensive versatility. So I think if there were any honorable mentions, I think Magic and D Wade in terms of that conversation make a lot of sense. But I think that 5, as it pertains to influence, is untouchable as of right now. I don't know if there's anybody to change that outside of Wemby maybe being next from the standpoint of, I don't think we're going to see another Wemby, but from the standpoint of what influence might become, I think we could potentially see Wemby's influence sooner rather than later from the standpoint on the sport and the culture of basketball as well even. So but I think that list is relatively untouchable. Man, another jam-packed episode for y'all. This picture of Miguel still being here is killing me. And like, I'm not gonna I don't necessarily want to edit this out and post either. So hopefully it works out to where it can stay and look like this so he can stay on. But nonetheless, another jam-packed episode. Josh, thank you so much for joining. We will absolutely have to have you back at some point for sure. But thank you for taking the time and coming out. If y'all ain't learned nothing, whether it be how unhinged we can get betting, do not do crack. Crack is whack. Successful in fantasy. We gave a lot of life lessons along with sports analysis in this episode.
Yeah, you could do a whole list of life lessons. Don't bet your rent on the parlays. Don't do crack.
I like that for the title.
What is it? We don't trust AJ Green for the Milwaukee Bucks. Apparently, like it's a lot of life lessons.
Absolutely. Well, man, until the next time we are gracing you all screens, we will see you all again. Like, subscribe, do all the things. And also, if you have not, please check out the Price Check Podcast. If you like this, you are going to love that, and you will see Josh on this platform here again. But until the next time we see y'all, we'll catch y'all next episode. Peace.